Okay, this is a little different for me. I will do a video on grinding. What I'm doing in the vise is an Oregon 404 full chisel chain that's had a lot of damage down the side plate. We need to remove a lot of the corner, so I'm going to use the grinder. The wheel in the grinder is a Dinosaur ABN wheel. I've had this for a little over a year now, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll also show offset grinding, sort of explain it in basics. It won't be very in-depth or anything. Bit of information about the wheel. They're made in Australia by a company called Dinosaur. So it's a steel blade with an ABN coating. So these wheels are quite coarse. They do leave a bit of a rough finish. However, it's very well suited to removing bulk metal. They grind very cool. The idea of these is to provide like a cooling fin. So it's not continuously grinding. There's little interruptions as it goes. I find them to be very effective. You can use these in a very different way to what you would use a stone wheel, which you'll get to see in a minute. All right, because we're offset grinding, which is just using the tilt, this grinder doesn't have the adjustments required for it. So we need to compensate for some of the angles. So this chain has a recommended 25-degree angle. I'm just sitting approximately halfway between 25 and 30. Oregon recommends 55 degrees of head tilt. I'm sitting between 50 and 55, so just sort of guessing on those. That is because we tilted the bait. There's some reasons why this happens. Some grinders give you indications on how to fix it. If it doesn't, just guess at about 3 degrees. So that's how the grinder's set up. We're targeting that end result. Because we're offset grinding, we'll probably end up with approximately 55 or so degrees of top plate cutting angle through the inside of the cutter here, and probably around 65 degrees to 70 degrees of side plate angle, just due to the profile of the wheel. I obviously can't change the radius on this. It is a 4mm wheel. However, I found it to be extremely effective on 404 3/8, and it also works pretty well on 325 until the last sort of 20% of their life. It doesn't work on 3/8 low pro. Tried it once, just can't happen. So I'll show you what I'm doing with it and explain the process of offset grinding. Okay, so here we are with it running. You guys may or may not be able to see it. What I'm looking for is the edge of the corner radius. It becomes a pretty clear line that I can see due to the angle that I'm on. And I want to position it so the rounded section of the wheel is forming the side plate here, but the flat section of the wheel drops down in below the top plate on the inside. It's really a matter of just controlling the height to be able to get that. So that's the actual setup part involved in this, but I'll just show you the process of what I'm doing here. So we're going to remove quite a lot of metal. Do not do this with a stone wheel unless you got the brown ones. Okay, so you saw I initially come down and made contact with it. I've got the height about where I want it. Now to clear all the lower section down here, we start utilising the slot that's in the rear hinge of these grinders. So I move it back out. So what happens is I come down, pull it down with that gentle force that I was using. Now I push it that way. I pull the handle down and towards the front of the tooth. And that's cleared that lower section. Return to our normal height, and now I use that slot in the pin to push. We're going to use the slot in that pin to push the wheel into the face of the cutter. So come down and then bump it in a bit, just to form that shape that we're after. I just check the clearing down low. That's good. Give it a couple of bumps, and that's it. So that was the process slowed down so you guys can see it. I'm just going to rip into this one and then I'll show you the tooth to show you I'm not burning it. So that's what I'm doing. We're doing this so we've got rapid removal of the material in there. We can get that to focus with the light that was required. You can see it's not blue or anything like that. We end up with a bit of a coarse finish on it, but that's not the end of the world. What I will probably do is come back around this a second time and just give it a clean up. What I would normally do is go through and clear like this, so I'm removing that bulk material that I need to get rid of, and then I would file it. And a lot of people are probably yelling at their screen right now. I file it because I can create the shape that I want more accurately than I can with a grinder. These things have a lot of slop in it. Believe it or not, a lot of precision work is done by someone with a file in their hands in the world. But for this sake, we're just grinding. So the important thing to make offset grinding work is the flat part of the wheel, the side flat part of the wheel needs to protrude down below the inner corner of the top plate cutting angle. So if we zoom in on the opposite cutter over here, we can see it. So we need to get the flat part of the wheel to drop completely below the top plate on the inside here, while leaving the radius section of the wheel to form the side plate, the outer section. And that is what offset grinding is about. What will occur when we do that is we'll end up with approximately 10 degrees more angle on the inside of the cutter compared to the outside. What you'll get out of doing that is approximately 5 to 10% improvement in cutting speed with no effect on durability. It takes a little bit longer to set a grinder up to do it, but once you've got the hang of it, it's not too bad. I prefer doing it with a file, but each to their own. Like I said, don't do this the way I am with a stone wheel. You will burn the absolute shit out of a cutter. Because of the way the wheel cuts with that high cut rate, I can leave it in there while I'm doing this. If you're using a stone wheel, you're going to have to come in and touch it off, and you also wouldn't be removing this much at a time. For anyone worried, like, these things do grind quite cool. These wheels' main use is for guys doing harvester chain, the bigger size ones, and nothing can tear up chain like a harvester. Lots of drive force, hydraulic feed, so you don't really know if it's cutting or not, so yeah. Right, so that's that side of the chain done. Obviously, to do the other side, we need to flip everything around. I'm just going to repeat the same process over there. I just started grinding the other side here, and this probably gives you a better indication of what offset grinding is. So you can see the angle on the inside of the top plate, and you can see how that top plate sort of curls across to the outside. That shape changes ever so slightly. Goes from being perfectly flat out here, because we've used a flat section of the wheel, and the angle changes and curls more as it moves towards the side plate on the outside of the corner. So that is offset grinding. That's offset grinding or filing with a tilt. It's exactly what we're trying to do. Just create that curl from over here being sort of more angle, and in the case of a grinder being flat, to being a curled shape over there. Remember, when this cuts, the chip starts being formed right here by the corner and needs to come over here and go under the top plate in through that chip channel. Anything we can do to help that curl down and through that gap is going to help. That's partially the reason why this works. The other advantage we get is on the inside of the top plate over here, it does an easier job, so we can get away with more angle there without affecting durability. But that's the very basics of offset grinding. That's what it should look like in the end. If you drop the wheel down so the flat section drops down through the inside of that corner, you lose the effect. It's just how it is. So yeah, it is a little bit trickier just setting that wheel height. Once you've got it though, you're good to go. You can just carry on, and as long as you're consistent, you'll get that the whole way around. And that's it, looking from a more front-on view. As you can see, because it's quite a coarse wheel, we can see those grinding lines running up towards that corner. We can see the shape changing in that top plate ever so slightly as it forms to the side.